Modern man is a miracle of evolution.
We now have a larger functioning brain than has ever existed before, and that has enabled us to develop things like language, culture, engineering, technology, poetry, mathematics, philosophy, things which have never been known before.
All constantly evolving, advancing.
My primary scientific and technical passion is the creation of thinking machines that can think at the human level and ultimately beyond the human level.
Welcome to the brave new world.
We are moving toward a technological singularity, a point at which there's an intelligence explosion where an ordinary unenhanced human can no longer understand the technological developments.
The technologies of the digital age have delivered unprecedented, perhaps boundless possibilities. We've reached a point at which man and technology begin to merge. Tools become body parts, and the human being digitally optimized. The result is a controversial vision: super sapiens. In the beginning, there was hell on earth. Water became the elixir of life. From the simplest of organisms, increasingly complex beings evolved over billions of years. Life was changing, and so was the environment. The only way to survive was to adapt. Then came a pivotal point in evolution: the rise of humans. Cultural achievements bear witness to ever-increasing human abilities. Alongside the natural world, an intellectual world arose. Man created art, language, and writing. Societies emerged and changed, and technology and its increasingly swift progress accelerated this process. Today, we can look into our deep past and gaze into the distant future. Technology has reached a stage where it's all-pervading. It informs us, entertains us, runs our lives. But what about the brain that created all the technology? Is it still developing?
I think it's hard to claim that our brain is still evolving in terms of hardware. In order for that to happen, it would be necessary that the brainiest individuals were still surviving best or having the most children, and that's clearly not true. What's happening is cultural evolution. We've externalized our mental evolution.
Modern visionaries are attempting to make sense of the dichotomy: humans on the one hand, technology on the other.
My name's Mikey Siegel. I have a background as an engineer in computer engineering and robotics. The big transition in my life has been where I started to discover that there was another world. For as long as I can remember, I've been excited about technology and engineering. Eventually, I hit like the engineer's jackpot and got to do robotics at MIT. I graduated MIT. I got an amazing job, well-paying, living with my friends in San Francisco. And on paper, it was the perfect life. But there was something wrong. It's almost as if I needed to get away from the science and tech in order to have the perspective to actually see what it really means and what it really is.
Mikey Siegel spent some time in India. There he had a spiritual experience that inspired new ways of thinking about the nexus between humans and machines.
It's impossible to talk about human beings without also talking about technology. And so the question is not whether or not we want technology to be here. The question is what we want technology to be.
Hooked on constant connectivity, we've become inseparable from our digital devices. They've become part of our lives, and now they're becoming part of our bodies. For some people, artificial implants are all the rage, when the body's communicating with computers. At the Epicenter laboratory in Stockholm, body hackers prepare to make this happen.
I think that the senses that evolution has given us humans are quite lousy. I see the human body as a platform, which is a good beginning, and it's really up to us to redesign it and to tweak it and to improve it in all various ways, because it needs improvement.
Human beings are not the fastest runners on the planet, nor the longest-lived organisms on the planet, nor can we jump higher than any other being. We are just specific combinations of atoms, molecules, and cells that happen to have evolved.
Human nature is all about self-transformation, I think. We all try to become better people, although we have very different views on what better means.
I have a chip implant here in my hand. I have my contact details saved on my chip, so whenever I meet someone, they can scan my hand and I get my contact straight into their address book.
Innovation has always been with humans, so it's not really possible to stop technology. However, you might aim at getting beneficial technologies before dangerous technologies.
Body hackers and their chip implants attract growing interest at technology fairs around the world.
Start using technology as part of ourselves.
At the Pioneers Festival in Vienna, the big names in the field try to convince the audience of their visions.
Are you welcoming the pain?
Signal acquired.
Tap
Connection
to confirm
established.
stored. Here you go. Transition to cyborg done.
Oh my God!
We have a potential to be much more than we are as humans, and still be humans. For example, by expanding our sensory universe. What if we could really understand how another person feels? I think that would make us not only more intelligent, but also, more importantly, more ethical beings.
So I think it's very useful to have people experimenting and doing implants. One reason why it's so important to have people experimenting, even maybe sometimes unwisely or radically, is that we don't know what could be a good outcome. We can't know that until somebody tries it.
Being a cyborg is like the future.
Learning by doing, but no experiment is without risk.
Maybe more. That would be amazing.
Well, when you look at how technology is being designed, it is being designed with very little foresight. At the moment, I'm not so eager to have something implanted under my skin, but I can imagine doing it if it became not only tempting, but it may seem essential. Why would anyone want to send email when we can talk on the phone? It seems like a step backward, and yet all of us got sort of thrown over the precipice and now are dealing with some fundamental changes in our lives. Many of us have outsourced our memory to the internet, where it's just rather than worry about whether or not you can remember something, you know you can always just search for it.
Our environment has changed quite radically. Some figures are that we have about 7 billion connected devices on Earth, about the same number as we have humans. But in just 5 years from now, we can expect to have 50 billion connected devices, so more than 10 for each of us. And we need to have some smart way to interact with all these digital things around us.
The crucial question is how this interaction should look.
One of the controversies raised by religious people is whether life is intelligently designed. So far, it has not been intelligently designed. It's arisen by unconscious, undesigned evolution. Now, humans are in a position to intelligently design the future of evolution.
It could be very exciting if humans enhance themselves in ways that make them overall better people. But in order to do this, we have to ask, what is the self? Will it really be a situation where I am still me at the end of the day?
The X-Tech conference in San Francisco is one of the most important hubs for innovations that connect technology with the human brain. Mikey Siegel is on the lookout for the latest developments by inventors who want to improve on human beings and their natural abilities, who are looking to surpass their own limitations. The spectrum ranges from virtual reality game platforms to medical devices that can alter the way the human brain functions. Harnessing the mind to control objects is a popular concept.
I will save you.
But will alone is often not enough.
No.
Not yet. The conference offers a great deal of opportunities for experiments and new experiences.
And then the next one we're doing here is the GSR. So this is the conductivity of the skin. And that's going to measure how intense of an emotion that you'd be having.
We're good? Okay. I'm going to do my best angry face. Okay, you ready? All right.
We'll be okay.
I don't want you to get scared.
Okay.
All right.
We'll be okay.
Stay calm.
Go for it. If you don't have a model of motion, the only way you can get that is asking people how they feel. But that in turn is changing the way that they feel. So having a sensor system like this allows you to look at what is that unspoken, unbiased response to environments, to surveys, or anything along those lines.
The edge that I'm really interested in is the edge of transformative technology. How do you design new tools and technologies that can connect and interface with the brain and the mind, but can take us to a new place, to new depths, to the furthest reaches of human flourishing? So tell me about this headset. How does this work?
This is a dry EEG. It's got little sensors that look like this.
So the special thing about this is that it doesn't actually require any special preparation to put this on. I mean, this could be the ticket to actually making this kind of technology accessible to a large number of people.
That's the idea. And what we do is we take this and we make sense of it. We take this sensor activity and we can go into your brain and look at how activity inside your brain is changing. And that starts to become much more powerful.
The researchers have devised a way to visualize a person's emotional state, a technique that may change lives.
We're doing that all in real time.
We're going to see a massive increase in the ability for locked-in individuals to be able to communicate, at first on a very basic level.
You can see it here on the phone.
Oh, wow.
So you're very serene and contented right now.
Well, I just
relaxed.
I just love EEG so much.
Well, this is just the beginning.
Everyone who works in brain-computer interface, we all think about the idea of being able to upload a consciousness onto a machine.
Would that copy actually be conscious? That depends upon the larger issue of whether a machine is capable of being conscious.
And if all of a sudden this phone, my phone, knows actually what I'm feeling, on one hand, I could imagine this being the greatest marketing tool of all time. But on the other hand, I could imagine this being like the most sensitive, heartfelt, intuitive therapist that I've ever come in contact with, that is sensitive to my emotions and perhaps helping to guide me towards a more balanced and harmonious state.
For some, the new mind-machine nexus promises endless possibilities. Critics warn of unchecked development. Marie Curie, the discoverer of radioactivity, could never have imagined the consequences of her work. Although this example seems polemic, what would actually happen if machines developed their own minds? Even influential figures like Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk warn against this scenario. Mikey Siegel imagines another future, where advanced technology is used to elevate human consciousness to a new level by plugging the brain into a machine.
And it felt like the more I found my path, the less people had any idea what I was talking about. What I'm suggesting is that we are entering into a new age, what I would call the experience age. There was a time where your physical capacity was a measure of how productive you could be. And then we moved into the information age, where your intellect, your mind, was the measure. And now in the experience age, with technologies that can become completely immersive and deeply impact our experience of the world, all of a sudden, we're playing in a new terrain.
Technological progress has always inspired and empowered people to look for new possibilities, to strike out in new directions. It brings dreams to fruition and changes lives.
Morning, Kaz.
Steven Sanchez has relied on a wheelchair ever since he broke a lumbar vertebra in a bike crash. A team from the University of California in Berkeley has developed special leg prosthesis to help people like Steven. The construction is an exoskeleton, an outer support structure that's designed to provide stability. The whole thing works electromechanically and is computer-controlled. Steven has spent nearly half of his life in a wheelchair. What happens next will define his future.
That's good, man.
He was told he would never walk again. The design still has its limits. The batteries only last a few hours, and Steven cannot go upstairs. But for Steven, the freedom and the feeling of being back on his feet is priceless. The next step is prostheses that aren't controlled by computers, but by thoughts. Mikey Siegel searches for technology that may be useful for his research at the X-Tech conference.
It is the Ultra Cortex. It is a 3D print.
The Ultra Cortex is a highly developed headset comprised of biosensors. They measure electrical body functions like brain activity and heartbeat.
Lego of I want to be a cyborg.
EEG is a main focus, but with our technology, you can also measure EMG, which is muscle movements.
To develop their technology, the researchers perform experiments on themselves, all in the name of science.
One of my recent projects has been sending EMG or muscle signals from the OpenBCI board into a robotic hand. The project really just started out of interest, but over the course of the last 6 months, there's been a huge rise, a surge of energy in open source prosthetics. And I just immediately saw the value of OpenBCI as a high channel count system to help augment the space.
Well, the first step is to help people who have medical problems. Moving into the future, we might imagine BMIs as a form of enhancement rather than just a form of therapy. What if you could get artificial limbs and then, should they break, you could just have them replaced?
This is awesome.
How long would it take you to sign up for those kinds of enhancements rather than just using your biological limbs?
In regards to the robotic arm that I've been working with, there's an element of machine learning. What we're doing is very simple machine learning, but the field of machine learning is growing at an exponential rate, and our ability to handle and process the data that is getting generated by systems like OpenBCI is only going to get more powerful.
So, David, I like to think that when the robots take over, they're going to spare the two of us, you know?
Yeah.
We'll still be useful.
I like that theory. Until recently, the EEG has been a very expensive device that one highly funded laboratory at the top tier schools, have access to. But now all of a sudden, in the last 5 to 10 years, it's just blown wide open, the entire space, because we've got $100 devices that are as good as the best technology 10, 20 years ago.
Technology now feeds itself. High-tech progress enables components to be manufactured smaller and cheaper, which in turn ensures technological advance.
A lot of people that have an incredible vision all of a sudden have a tool that they can afford. They have a tool that's accessible, and they have a community of people that are also using this tool that they can get support from and work with.
The startup OpenBCI is an example of how affordable technology is fanning the flames of technological development.
I think that the merger of man and machine has kind of been going on now for quite some time. It's no surprise that we're talking about this here, that I have an opportunity to be a part of something like OpenBCI, where we see more and more of these kinds of projects and examples of technology, digital, mechanical, and biology, humans, animals, sort of coming together at an even closer connections. And are you
Joel Murphy is preparing a spectacular experiment. The guinea pig is neuroscientist David Putrino.
Are you on the scalp now, too?
Yeah, I can feel that up against my scalp.
Okay, this is looking better. All right, so blink your eyes a couple of times. Okay, great. Some nice eye blink artifacts. And fly this helicopter.
Oh, just fly the helicopter.
With your brainwaves. With your brainwaves, okay?
Sounds awesome.
This is going to be awesome.
Let's do this.
All right, we're going to look simply at the alpha wave coming off your occipital lobe. We've got an electrode back here for measuring that. And when you close We're always creating electrical potentials from our brains, from our muscles. Our heart is a big electrical signal generator. And so it depends on what you want to do with those signals. And one of the things that you could do is interface them with a machine, either to tell the machine about your state or to get feedback from a machine that's measuring your state and distilling some useful information out of it. So this is looking pretty good.
The preparations are complete. Joel is satisfied. The test flight can begin.
Yeah, we're seeing some good alpha. We're sending energy to the helicopter, indeed.
The test pilot tries to relax.
It's really close, though.
It seems like things are working, but the helicopter isn't taking off.
All right, you can open your eyes now. Look, hey, hang on, look. David, stop it. All right, I'm just gonna make an adjustment. So I've just got to figure out what the best
So you're just thresholding me now.
Yeah, well, it's also, this is super fresh code.
Okay.
So it's like, it's my handicap.
We have this capability now of actually, taking the analog world inside of our head and turning it digital, turning it binary, and then harnessing technology, harnessing computers to better understand consciousness, better understand, what it means to be human, and then maybe even improve the human condition.
And
Joel Murphy is not about to give up.
Okay,
looking good.
And that looks really nice. There's little eye blinks, artifacts, that's nice. So now
Again, test pilot David tries to relax.
And relax.
The success is astounding.
Yeah, get it up there.
Well, what I find really exciting, the consumer market is actually driving a lot of the innovation. We have these young startups which are saying, you know what, science is moving too slowly. Let's crowdsource the problem out to the community.
Okay, maybe the problem's in hardware.
and let's get the community thinking about how to solve these problems. Let's get the community making the next big technological steps and making huge innovations. And that's what I think is really exciting.
It's okay, it's okay.
At first, most people are really psyched or turned on by the idea of interactivity and controlling robots and mind-controlled drones. But what I'm more excited about is the capability to give individuals access or further understanding of the tools that already exist inside of their own heads. Wow. You know, you have switches and the ability to alter these states inside of your own head if you know how.
The enigmatic relationship between mind and body is the focus of experiments at the University of California in San Francisco. Researchers here are investigating how physical activity influences mental performance and how this knowledge can be used to enhance our lives.
AJ, we're gonna take a look at your glass brain right now. Can you just do some activity so we can see some stuff going on in there? So what you see here is real-time brain activity data being visualized, literally with just a 0.2 of a second delay in it being generated in his brain to being visualized in the glass brain.
And so the promise of this is that we'll identify those patterns and images that reflect optimal performance, and as you understand that, the machine can feed back in and train them to that state.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to get us started.
The experiment is a video game. However, in this case, the test player doesn't sit comfortably at home on his sofa.
Ready in 10 seconds. 5 seconds.
Initiating cognitive workout sequence.
Here we go.
The experiment is literally a mind-body workout. While the participant exerts his body physically, he challenges his mind to solve cognitive problems.
At the same time. And our hypothesis here is that his outcomes, how his attention abilities improve, will exceed someone that played a version of this game just sitting down at the computer.
There's a lot more to the human mind than we encounter in our everyday lives. So if we try to unleash hidden potential in our brains, we could learn new things about ourselves and perhaps improve our level of consciousness.
Entering next level.
The other big technological advance that we're trying to push to the next level is real-time brain recordings during an activity, and also looking at how areas are communicating with each other.
So the holy grail being a direct feedback loop, brain to machine to brain.
That's exactly right, and we could do that during many, many different activities.
Cognitive workout completed. Prepare for next.
We have a version of this where you meditate, and we're recording brain activity and feeding that in. So the meditative experience is responding to what's going on in your brain.
All right, our signals look good.
Mankind has been seeking and using connections between mind and body since time immemorial. Meditation, for instance, has a positive influence on people. This has been scientifically proven many times over.
The ability to take sometimes ancient practices and bring in technology so that we could create algorithms so that they're adaptive and personalized, that's the really massive win that we're seeing now. So there's some really solid evidence coming out that these ancient practices can have very tangible benefits on our biology. But if we can bring in all of this technology and get it into people's hands in a way that they find much more enjoyable and engaging, especially young people, these can be tools to elevate our minds. And if we think about that from this perspective, really, the sky's the limit on what we can accomplish.
The point is, most of effort has always been about capability, the ability of a machine to do clever things. And very little has been thinking about, is it safe? Does it actually produce good outcomes?
But many researchers are well aware of the risks of scientific progress.
With respect to the idea of the merger between man and machine, I think it's both very exciting, but also very frightening at the same time. I think we have to be very smart and cautious about how we proceed into the future and really approach the future while looking far off into the horizon. We've made a lot of mistakes regarding data and privacy and security with the emergence of the internet. And I think that we should learn from those mistakes as we begin to connect our brain to the internet.
In many ways, if we could continue forever by being very cautious, very boring, uncreative, and never doing anything fun, I think most people would say that's not the right way of living. Some risk is necessary.
Imagine you can modify your mind any way that you can imagine it and specify in detail and program, then you have become something massively smarter than what you can imagine now. You know, I wish I could remember 1,000 things in my mind at one time instead of just 10. Okay, let's increase the short-term memory buffer size, right? I'd like to have a calculator, Mathematica, and Google accessible inside my mind, that power of thought, instead of having to interact with these things by my fingers, which is very slow and awkward. Okay.
One goal of research is to enhance certain abilities of the human brain.
Take that, plug it into this.
I meet my friend Michael, who's a neuroscientist that's been studying how electrical activity can change the way the brain works.
Your body's going to conduct electricity from your...
Once again, Mikey Siegel plays the part of the human guinea pig.
So there's all these sensors around this conference that are reading the electrical activity of the brain.
Yeah.
But what this is actually doing is it's essentially changing the electrical activity of the brain, and you're targeting a specific part of my brain that is going to have a certain effect, in this case, for visual processing.
That's right. Exactly.
Really cool.
Yeah. We can start the stimulation when you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right.
He wires me up with his latest gadget. And immediately I can feel the tingling on my head. I'm in your capable hands here, Mike. And I can taste this metallic taste in my mouth. And I also started to notice that my speech seemed a little weird. I certainly wouldn't want to, you know, feel like that all day, every day.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question for you, Mikey.
Yeah.
Do you remember the project that you and I talked about putting in at the moment?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Oh, okay. Well, I remember we talked about putting it was a year ago.
Yeah.
1 year ago.
At this conference.
We were downstairs.
Yeah.
I remember I had just had a fight with my girlfriend.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
And I'm trying to remember what the details were. Some kind of installation.
Yeah.
I don't really remember all the details. And I'm totally stumped. I can't remember the answer. And he explains to me that one of the effects of this electrical stimulation is that it's in certain ways impairing my memory and my language processing.
We are now trying to pump
The aim of the experiment is to significantly improve visual perception and the processing of optical information in the brain.
Do you still have your phone?
Yeah.
Let's have you do something hardcore visual.
So I pull up this game that I've been playing and a little frustrated with for the past few months.
Mikey starts playing as he normally would.
It actually makes it more visual.
Then quickly realizes his perception of the game is different. It's sharper, focused, more lucid.
Within about 10 minutes, I get a high score. Wow. I've never beat that level before.
Mikey is astounded by his new abilities.
Wow. So before this day, I don't think I've even gotten half as far. And then when I looked up and started just looking around the room, I started to notice that I could spot fine details. I could look out the window and see the leaves on the trees. It was really a very interesting experience. What I notice is this possibility to actually totally zone into what I'm doing. It was a little hard with all the cameras around me, but when I hit it, it was quite incredible. Mike, what did you just do to my brain? Because I seem to have extra special abilities here.
We may have an opportunity to sculpt our brains, and there may be a plurality of different kinds of minds. One person may have echolocation, another could have a mobile internet connection, another could be incredibly smart, could be a super intelligence. They may choose to enhance themselves in ways that they feel their employer wants. And we have to have legal protection for those people who decide not to enhance.
So it was amazing to have this experience with this technology. What if you actually took multiple devices simultaneously and you actually connected them to a group of people?
Well, if we could merge two human brains, I think that would produce a very different kind of mind. We know that to be the case because people have had their brains divided surgically to mitigate grand mal epileptic seizures. And you have two minds at that point that are no longer communicating with one another. In certain circumstances, they can get into a kind of tug of war with each other, so that literally the left hand is buttoning the shirt and the right hand is unbuttoning it. But it's not in principle different than uniting two separate human beings if we had the technology to do that.
This is not science fiction. There is a very real concern that unchecked technological development will trigger an unpredictable chain reaction. Today, virtually anyone with adequate programming knowledge can design body-brain interfaces and tailor-made software without regulation.
What we have created today in our technological landscape is an expression of who and what we are as a human culture.
Culture entails, among other things, interpersonal contact, an exchange of information, thoughts, feelings. We share these things with others, sometimes in a playful way. Technology is an instrument for this, but because of technological progress, much is at stake in the future.
Losing a game is not necessarily a bad thing, because the point of a game is the activity. Well, what about losing the world? That's kind of different, because in many ways we actually care about being in the world. But we do care about also kind of playing the game of existence.
There has been a number of human species on this planet. All of these Homo species have lived and they have passed away. Who says that Homo sapiens are any different?
It's not obvious to me that a replacement of our species by our own technological creation would necessarily be a bad thing.
The future of mankind seems inextricably connected to technological progress. For some, this makes it all the more imperative to explore and use every possibility.
Hello?
Hey, how you doing? What you up to?
Oh, hey, Craig. Yeah, I'm on my way to the hackathon right now. I should be there in like 5 minutes. There should be probably about 15 or 20 folks from the consciousness hacking community that are going to be there. We've got some people that are bringing in some pretty big projects, actually. There's someone that's coming that's been building a nightclub that interacts with your mind. When I started this journey, I felt totally alone. But things began to change very quickly. I started a small community called Consciousness Hacking, which started as 10 people sitting around a table discussing these ideas.
Mikey's group was on the right track. Within a year, they had 100 members who regularly met in the San Francisco Bay Area. A year later, there were about 20 other such groups worldwide, totaling over 10,000 members. Their goal is to explore ways to use technology to expand human consciousness. Mikey Siegel seems to have arrived at his destination. He and his group have found a home for their dreams, thanks to a generous investor who believes in their utopian vision. The Co-Hack Home, the consciousness hacking home, is the center of activity for this special group of people.
Hey, good to see you.
They see themselves as a kind of modern commune. The members live together and work together. At first glance, this is reminiscent of the communes of the late 1960s and their quest to expand human consciousness.
Did he tell you that he's starting?
Mikey Siegel now works at the Stanford University School of Medicine. He's created his own curriculum for a new subject called consciousness hacking.
We've got some fun projects going on. I have like a class on technology and meditation. And then all the way on the other side is a collaboration with the D School, the design school, where students actually form into teams.
So it's like individual...
Design school getting closer with the business school and actually beginning to develop a lab or some kind of work or collaboration space.
The Co-Hack Home has several workspaces. Here, researchers from different disciplines develop, plan, and construct new types of electronics, new program codes, and software systems. Their mission is to create completely new technologies and to use those technologies to design devices that will enhance human consciousness, elevate it to previously unimaginable levels.
Do you get data off of this thing? Or?
It doesn't give us the data inherently. We'd have to hack into it. But,
Mikey Siegel is not only the founder of a new movement, he is also a pioneering thinker and a visionary.
One of my main interests is not just how the individual can transform, but how we can create interpersonal transformation, how we can shift the relationship between people. And if we think about it, this is nothing new. This has been at the core of human culture for thousands of years. It's a defining quality of human beings. If I were to ask you what the most meaningful and important experience you've ever had with another person was, it probably wouldn't be about an idea or a thought. It would be about a feeling. And my question is, how can we use technology to help support this already innate capacity for deep, profound human connection?
Mikey's group is constantly working on the development and creation of new tools. This laid-back, free-form workspace is a hub focused on helping people to develop. Using the most advanced technologies available. Devices that measure brain waves.
Having the neuro and bio...
Computers that capture individual states of being.
Let me activate the EEG again.
But the researchers are thinking far beyond purely scientific and technical contexts. They want to create the technology of the future, to awaken people to higher consciousness.
We just got funding for a brand new and very exciting project, really an experiment, to see what happens when we use new types of technology to support a deep sense of connection between a group of people. What we do is we actually take special sensors that monitor the brain and that monitor the heart. And we wire up not just one person, but we wire up the whole group together. And then a computer system analyzes all the data coming from this group. And what it's doing is it's actually comparing against a scientific understanding of what it looks like in the brain and in the heart when we fall into a very natural sense of deep connection that is always available, but not always accessible. We talk about feeling synced up with a person, and sure, there's slang around that. but this actually has real scientific meaning. And our experiment is to explore, can we actually use this special type of technology, not just to measure the connection, but to actually guide this group? And this is a new frontier. This possibility of what happens when technology is used not just to connect us through information is an incredible, profound space of possibility.
The expansion of human consciousness through modern technology is still in its infancy, but scientists are already hard at work studying the possible consequences.
You know, I think that in terms of what we can expect from the next 5 to 10 years, I get really excited about it because I think that we're going to really start to develop what we can do with brain-computer interfaces.
Would we have a bifurcated society? Would people of such different types even want to live together in the same civilization? This is only the beginning of the kind of questions and issues which we'll need to address.
We are at the transition between animals that cannot understand what they are and reflect on their own thinking and behavior, and the next stage of intelligence, which is intelligent beings that can be fully self-reflective, understand their own minds and bodies, and repurpose and refactor and improve themselves according to their goals.
A relatively small number of evolutionary changes led to all the things that the human brain have produced, modern technological societies. Complex organization, scientific understanding of the world. It just seems very plausible that like some similar additional tweaks on top of that, you know, whether by biological enhancing human condition or creating AIs that surpass us, could have equal or much greater impacts on the world.
The change that we are exerting on the world is far more dramatic than the change that Homo sapiens was exerting on the world when Neanderthal man was watching it happen. Our biological bodies were never selected to live in this breakneck changing world of technology, and who knows what the future may bring.
Technological progress seems to be just a click away. But are we really facing a glorious future? Mikey Siegel wants to connect, indeed to reconcile mankind and technology. But even for him, many questions remain unanswered.
So where do we want to go from here? We're about to see a generation born into a world where every waking moment will be mediated by technology. But can we really separate who we are from what we build? Isn't technology just a mirror of who and what we are as a humanity? Perhaps the smartest are not always the fittest. The greatest innovation of humanity will not be a gadget. It will be the software that runs our minds and our hearts. The greatest innovation of humanity will be our inner operating system.